Very good morning, guys. I hope am I audible to everyone. Can you hear me, guys? Very good morning, guys. Okay, so I guess I am perfectly audible now. So I welcome everyone to this session. This is your mission mains, where we will be discussing some important stuff for your upcoming mains exam. So this session happens on weekend, guys. The timing of the sessions are 10 to 11:30. This is 1.5 hours of session. In today's session, I will be starting with polity. Okay, we will be revising our polity along with some current affairs so that you can brush up your knowledge for the upcoming mains exam. So this session happens every Saturday and Sunday. Usually on Saturdays, Sanat sir takes this session where he takes subjects like economics, science and tech, art and culture, and other miscellaneous areas. Whereas on Sunday, I take this session. I have already covered environment and ecology. I have already covered IR. So you can check the videos of environment and ecology and IR from the description box. You will find all the classes there. In the month of June, we have covered environment and ecology. Then in the month of in month of June we have covered IR. In month of July, I have covered environment, and in the month of August, because this is the first session of August, I will be starting with a little bit of polity, current affairs, polity, and we will see that how you can tackle GS2, particularly for polity. This is the agenda of today's session. So I will tell you about all the different type of courses that we are launching at Shriram IAS. But let us first start the class and then we'll come to the details of the courses towards the end of the session. All right. So this session is brought to you by Anshub Verma, that is me. I am a practicing advocate in Delhi High Court and District Courts. These are my credentials and I have a teaching experience of more than 10 years. So guys, first we will see that polity is majorly your GS2. Okay. So polity lies in GS2. You should know this, that which subject is where. So in GS2, you will have questions from the Constitution. You have questions from within the constitutions, like they will compare two different constitutions and then they will give you the question. Then there are questions from the executive of the union, that includes the president, vice president, speaker, and all other executives, prime minister, council of ministers. The questions can come from these areas. Then there are the next domain of questions are from judiciary. So all these areas we will be covering step by step, topic by topic through these sessions. All right. So let us start today's session. The first important discussion on today's session is important provision in Indian Constitution. We will look at that why Indian Constitution is so important and why this area is continuously being touched by UPSC. So this is today's first topic for discussion. From this topic, some PYQs. So in my session, you will get the PYQs from the same topic and then how UPSC is approaching that particular topic. So what France can learn from India's Indian constitution's approach to secularism, and discuss the adjective attached to the word republic in the preamble. Are they defendable in the present circumstances? So these are the two questions that has been asked under this topic. Important provisions in the constitution. ये सब GS2 के आए हुए क्वेश्चंस हैं. सो सबसे पहले हम इसको डिटेल से एकदम स्क्रैच लेवल से पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं, so that even if you have just started your preparation, you can understand few things. And then if you are again a person who has already given 2 to 3 attempts, that means you have done your bit of polity. So this session will help you to revise your Indian constitution, Indian polity in a very swift manner. So India, like what names that we have used for our country, that is two names. India, that is Bharat, is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary form of government. So we are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and we follow the parliamentary system of government, where just like what we have seen in Britain, we have copied this parliamentary system from Britain. So just like Britain, they also have two houses. That means our parliament is bicameral in nature. That means having two houses. So in Britain, you have House of Commons and House of Lords. House of Commons and House of Lords. So just like Britain, India also has a bicameral legislature, where we have Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha, where Rajya Sabha is known as House of People or representative of people, and Rajya Sabha is known as the Council of States. So it is union of the states. Like this is something again unique about India's political setup, that it is not the states that have come together to form India. Like बाकी जितने भी हमारे यहाँ पर states हैं, they haven't come together to form India. It is rather India that has formed different states, and that formation of states is unbreakable. Like if you compare this with America, in America, why it is known as United States of America? Because all the states there, the 50 states at present, has come together and joined hands to form America. Okay. Each state there still has a right to secede from, each has a right to secede from American United States as a country and form a independent country. But in India, do you think that all these rights are given to the Indian states? Answer is a big no. So India, all the states are governed by the law of the land, which is commonly known as the Constitution of India. Then we adopted this Constitution of India on 26th November 1949, and this Constitution came into effect from 26th January 1950. By the way, most of the provision of our Constitution was applied in the country on this date only, but not the complete Constitution. So can you tell me why? Why the complete Constitution was not applied on this date? Because our Constitution was ready by this time. We were ready with our Constitution on 26th November 1949, but we didn't we didn't apply this throughout the country. Like all of these provisions are not applied in throughout the country. Only limited provisions were applied. So some political analyst says that the then political leaders want to commemorate the India's first demand for Purna Swaraj that was demanded on 26th January 1950 on the banks of River Ravi in Lahore. So to commemorate that, that is why India celebrate its Republic Day on 26th January 1950. Is it clear? Then, what are the significant provisions of Indian Constitution? We will do all these provisions in detail in this session. Complete month of August I have dedicated to cover all these provisions, related to polity one by one. We will link it to the recent judgments. We will link it to some recent current affairs in that area. And this holistic approach will help you to develop some points for your mains exam. And if you are writing mains this year or mains 24, this session will definitely help you. All right. So what are the significant provisions of the Indian Constitution? Which are the preamble, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, DPSP, directive principle of state policy, universal adult franchise, single citizenship, and separation of powers. So these are some important significant provisions of Indian Constitution. So let us see them one by one. Very quickly, let us understand all these provisions one by one. So the first provision is preamble. So as we all know, what is a preamble? How we can define a preamble? If somebody asks this question to you in interview, tell me what is preamble, or what do you mean by this word preamble? So basically, preamble means a preface or an introduction of the Constitution. That means, like, you must have read the preface of any book, like whether you read NCRT, whether you read your recommended book. So when you are reading all these NCRTs and all these things, it has a preface. Preface, what is the job of a preface? It basically explains in this that what all things that you are seeking, or what you are looking for in this complete book. So the preamble gives a introduction or a tone for the entire Constitution. It gives a brief overview of India's nature and the constitutional objectives. However, it has come under scrutiny from various quarters and debates, like, for example, even in the present context, many demand that India is no more a socialist. That why we use this word socialist for our country. India is not secular. Like, why we have to impose this word secular on everyone? So this is something, like, you will see that these are the words which are highly debatable. Okay. Then fundamental rights. Next provision is fundamental rights. Like, if somebody asks you to explain fundamental rights in brief, how you will do that? So fundamental rights can be explained in this way, that these are some rights which are fundamental to enjoy a decent life. These are the group of rights that somebody needs in their life to lead a comfortable, successful life. जिसको हिंदी में, like, if you translate fundamental rights in Hindi, it is known as मूलभूत अधिकार. Okay, so fundamental rights are the set of justiciable rights. Now, what do you mean by justiciable? Justiciable means that if these rights are violated, you have a legal remedy to even approach the courts. By the way, like, if all other rights are also abrogated or they are abridged, in that case also you can approach the court, but fundamental right enjoy a special status. In case of a violation of fundamental right, a person can straight away approach a high court or a supreme court, thereby bypassing the entire judicial process. Then, fundamental rights are vital component of our constitutional law and governance. They play a very important role in our constitution, and that is why their protection is the responsibility of the state. Next, they safeguard the citizens against any arbitrary and absolute exercise by the state. Like it protects the citizens from any unlawful, unconstitutional actions against the citizens. Then you will hear about fundamental rights so much, like even in the present context, fundamental rights is in debate, like CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, like the triple talaq case, where there was a dispute between right to equality, that means Article 14, and between Article 25 to 28. That means right to equality and right to practice religion. Triple talaq was a debate, and right now the same debate is under UCC. So UCC, Uniform Civil Code, where again the right or the debate comes between individual right and group rights. Individual rights that our constitution gives, like right to equality, whereas we have some group rights which are known as freedom of religion, which is protected under 25 to 28, and also cultural and educational right 29 and 30. So UCC is a debate between two separate rights. Coming ahead, like next thing is DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy. So what are these? How they are different from fundamental rights? So Directive Principle of State Policy are those set of principles, like the name says, principles. So these are some set of principles which the government slash the state has to keep in mind while imposing any law, or while forming any law. So these are some set of principles that a person has to keep in mind, a state has to keep in mind. However, DPSP are non-justiciable. That means if there is violation of DPSP, you cannot approach the court. Okay, so generally there are three set of principles under DPSP. For example, let us discuss each type of principle. The first principle are the Gandhian principle. The Gandhian principle. Now, what do Gandhiji talks about? He talks about village economy. He talks about non-violence. He talks about development of protection to the cows, banning intoxications like alcohol, drugs, and all these things. So these are said to be some Gandhian principles. So do you think that the government of India, under the constitution, taking directives from DPSP, they are working against all these areas? Answer is yes. Like there is a legal age of alcohol. There is a schemes, government projects that comes for development of the village economy, self-help groups, those local cooperative societies. Okay, so this is Gandhian principle. Socialist principle talks on socialist principle talks on the lives of worker development, equal wage for men and women, okay, child development, and all these things. And then there is one more principle we all know, that is the liberal principle, which talks about freedom, equality, like equality of opportunity. Even your UCC, which is right now in debate, guys, UCC, Uniform Civil Code, which is part of Article 44, is what type of principle? It is guided by the liberal principles. Okay, it is guided by the liberal principles. So this is a brief overview of DPSP. Don't worry, we will do all these topics in detail for the exam point of view, for the mains. This is just what right now we are doing, important provisions of Indian Constitution. Then guys, we have some fundamental duties. So for example, just like you enjoy some rights, rights is what? How you can explain right? एक अधिकार क्या है? A right is something that you earn from the state which has a negative consonant. Like these are some basic freedoms in the form of rights that is given to you, like fundamental rights and other legal rights. On the similar hand, or the what is the other side of the story, that if you enjoy certain rights, it is also your responsibility. It is also your responsibility to carry out certain duties against the constitution or against the country. You should have a responsibility towards this country as well, because this country gives you all the necessary rights. This country gives you all the necessary means through which you can sustain a healthy life. So for this, then you should be, or there is a burden of a certain responsibility of the citizen towards the country, towards the society. So this fundamental duty, the idea of fundamental duty, we have borrowed it from the USA. However, even fundamental duties are non-justiciable. Now there is a difference, guys. For example, fundamental duty says that you should protect Indian heritage, you should respect Indian flag and freedom of independence. But on the same hand, you will see that if somebody, disrespects, or it shows disrespects against the flag, against Indian flag. So we are saying that fundamental duties are non-justiciable. Can that person say that there can be no proceedings against that person? किसी ने झंडे का अपमान करा तो क्या फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज के अंतर्गत वो नॉन जस्टिसिएबल है, यानी कोर्ट में अपील नहीं कर सकते. बट अगर in that case, if we file a case against that person, so can that person say, sir ये तो नॉन जस्टिसिएबल था, मैंने तो इसीलिए करा? No. Again, according to National Flag Code, showing disrespect to the national flag is punishable under the law as per this law. So the person is obliged to treat national flag with respect. ठीक है, एक व्यक्ति को नेशनल फ्लैग से रिस्पेक्टफुली पेश आना होगा. Okay, so I hope you understood the meaning here. Then the next provision, important other provisions are universal adult franchise, the UAF. So what is UAF? Like every citizen of our country who has attained a certain age. So for India, that age is 18 years. So if a person has attained an age of 18 years, he has right to vote regardless of caste, creed, color, sex, place of birth, or any kind of discrimination. This is something which is known as UAF. So this is the most important testament to a democratic principle of political equality. Like for example, China also claimed that they are democratic, but they are democratic in what context, in what sense? This is a big question. There also some elections happen, and there people also, kind of vote. But are they democratic enough what we are? So the words like democracy, you cannot explain in just one line or just one paragraph. It has a different meaning, a multiple meaning for multiple identities. Okay, so this is universal adult franchise. Then there is an ongoing debate related to universal adult franchise. What is the debate? Like literacy, like that the country has such a low literacy rate. Like even today, as per the last census, we are around 73 point some percent literate. Approximately 73% people in India are literate. So the other illiterate people, they should also have the right for democratic participation in the elections, with a big question mark. So as of now, literacy is not a criteria in India to decide that if a person can vote or not. Okay, so I hope you are getting this. The next is single citizenship. So in India, like if I ask you that आप भारत में कहाँ के नागरिक हैं, you are a citizen of which part of India? If I ask this question to you, you will say, sir, I am from Uttar Pradesh, I am from Madhya Pradesh, I am from Arunachal, I am from Kerala. So this question in itself was wrong question. You are not a citizen of Madhya Pradesh. You are not a citizen of Arunachal Pradesh. You are not a citizen of Kerala. Rather, you are resident of Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh or Kerala. You enjoy one single citizenship, that is citizenship of India. Okay? आप सिर्फ और सिर्फ भारत के नागरिक हैं, आप किसी स्टेट के नागरिक नहीं है. You are just a mere resident of that state. Okay, so I hope you are getting my explanation here. So single citizenship provision is a unique feature of Indian Constitution that applies all citizens, irrespective of the state they reside in, enjoy the same right of citizenship. Okay, they have the same right of citizenship. So in the light of the issues related to interstate migration, like NRC, National Register of Citizenship, this was something which was in news. This was highly debatable when CAA Act was going on, and right now Assam is doing this NRC, recognizing who all are the citizens of Assam. Okay, then the next important feature of Indian Constitution is that Indian Constitution has separation of power. What do you mean by separation of power? That means all the organs of Indian political system, that is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary, they all have separation of powers. That means all can work independently. And separation of power also means that Indian constitution gives a check and balance on each other. Like for example, let us discuss executive. Like police is an executive. So can police arrest anybody without a reason? Answer is no, because they are bounded by the laws made by the parliament. Similarly, can a parliament can make a law like nobody is allowed to move after 6 p.m. in the evening. This is a law applicable throughout the country. Can such a law made by legislature? क्या legislature ऐसा law बना सकता है? Answer is no. This type of a law is unconstitutional, so judiciary can declare this law as invalid. So, क्या like after this discussion you will feel that is judiciary the most supreme organ in our country? Can a judge give punishment to anyone without any justification as per the law? Answer is again no, because even judiciary is bounded by the law which is formed by the legislature. And the recruitment, the appointment of judiciary as well as the removal of judiciary lies in the hand of the legislature. So this is said to be a separation of power. Each organ of our system can work accordingly, but under the set principle, set rules. This is a method to distribute authority so that no single body has the absolute power. So whether you are Narendra Modi, whether you are Chief Justice of India, whether you are President of India, none of the three has the absolute power for India. They are bounded by the laws made by the people of India through legislature. Okay, so I hope you understood what is separation of power. Now, we will pick all important areas from our constitution and we will quickly discuss this so that all of you who are appearing for this mains can revise all these topics in a very swift manner. This is the objective. So I am starting with preamble. Okay. So like I have told you that what is a preamble? Preamble is basically a gist or a preface of the constitution or an introduction of the constitution. Basically, it sets out the guiding principles for the legislature. So it says that according to the set norms in the preamble, all the laws should be in tandem with the preamble, and it is vice versa. Preamble is also a kind of in tandem of our constitution. It is giving that what is there in our constitution. So preamble is also a source of constitution's authority. That means the legislature also refers to preamble while framing the laws. Okay, welcome Ram Kumar. So guys, this section was drafted by Vengal Krishna Menon, which outlines the characteristics of Indian state and the objectives of the constitution. By the way, the draft of preamble is very much similar to the objective resolution presented by Jawaharlal Nehru in Constituent Assembly. So whatever the draft of preamble is, like we, the people of India, solemnly resolve to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens justice, fraternity, all those things which Indian preamble ensures. The complete draft of preamble is almost borrowed, like most of the lines are borrowed from the objective resolution presented by Jawaharlal Nehru in the Constituent Assembly. Then let us focus very quickly on some keywords of the Constitution. Let us focus on some keywords. So the first important word is sovereign. So what do you mean by this word sovereign or sovereignty? So basically it signifies India's independent authority. Like for example, let's suppose like we want to frame a law for India. Do we need to take any permission from America to frame this law? Answer is no. We are free to act according to our own will. This is what sovereignty is. Then India's sovereignty extends to India's political boundaries. For example, like you know that very recently in SCO summit, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, India refused to join China's initiative, that is BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. India has come out from this BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. So what India and why India has done this? The main reason that why India has done this is because that India was blaming that China is making one project, CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is passing through a political boundary that has Indian sovereignty. That political boundary is known as POK. So this is what you can understand that what is sovereignty. इससे आप समझ सकते हो कि sovereignty क्या है, वो इंडिया का sovereign area है. So sovereignty can be internal and it can be external. Internal किस केस में होगा? What is internal sovereignty? It implies that state has an absolute power to legislate on any subject. That means if we want to frame a law on NRC, on citizenship, on fundamental right, or on anything, we can easily do that. Then externally, it ensures that the state is not subject to any external powers control. That means India cannot be dominated by any other power outside India. China cannot dominate us, US cannot dominate us, or any other country cannot dominate us. Then in similar lines, we'll talk about something known as digital sovereignty. Now guys, this is something which does not have any particular dimension. Like digital sovereignty, although we can use the internet according to our own needs, but we cannot control the internet according to our needs. So an emergency or an emerging dimension of sovereignty is the age of social media that focuses on the governance of digital resource and cybersecurity. Like for example, when you use your Facebook, what type of videos and posts should come first? Do you think that you can decide that what kind of post you should see in Facebook and Instagram? Answer is no. This is decided by Facebook, which is a private company. So do you or can you say that are we completely digitally sovereign? Answer to this question is no. Okay. Answer to these type of question is no. Then in the era of global interdependence, India's sovereignty continues to adapt. Okay. So in an era of global interdependence, this field of sovereignty or this field of India's sovereignty is, continuously adapting. So we are facing issues like cybersecurity, we are facing issues like data privacy, border disputes, to basically underscore the complexity of maintaining sovereignty in today's world. So this is what your sovereignty is. Then coming to the uh, next part of preamble, that is socialism or socialist ideology. Like if I want you to explain that what is socialism, what is socialist ideology? So the answer to this question will be socialism talks on the lines of people's welfare or a welfare state. People's welfare or welfare state. So this idea of socialism, we have borrowed it from USSR slash Russia. So under socialism, what is a true socialism? Where all important key resources lies under the control of state, that is the government. That means the government will decide that where to spend money, how to spend money, and they will control all the resources. So can you tell me that is India a socialist country? Like is India is having a full control, the government of India is having a full control on important key resources? Answer is no. Okay. So this socialism word was inserted into the constitution by 42nd Amendment 1976. So this concept of socialism has brought new dimensions into India in the field of liberalization, privatization, globalization. So balancing the public welfare with the market forces is a kind of a significant challenge in pursuing these objectives. Next is India is a secular state. So for example, Pakistan is an Islamic state of Pakistan. Saudi is again an Islamic state. Vatican is a Christian state. Japan, however, Japan is not purely Buddhist, but yeah, there are some Buddhist states like Bhutan, Myanmar. But India is a secular state. That means the government does not have any religion. We believe in Sarva Dharma Sadbhav. We believe in respecting in all religion. With this word secular, India also believes in atheist. That means not believing in any God. Atheism. Okay. So we believe in this as well. So a secular state, India does not uphold any religion as a state religion. We ensure equal protection to all the religions. Like, for example, the meaning of secularism in different countries are different. Like many countries, they follow secularism where the state has no relationship with religion at all. That means the state cannot control the religion in any form. But in India, the meaning of secularism is Sarva Dharma Sambhav. That is, we ensure equal protection to all the religions. So, in the current socio-political scenario, India's secular fabric is right now increasingly under scrutiny. So, the social secular fabric we have seen, like the violence that it has happened in Haryana, then these type of instances are again on the rise. Like the reasons are political, we can say yes. The reasons are the digital divide, the people, the external forces that are working to weaken India. Answer is yes. So these are the reasons why India's secular fabric is under high scrutiny. Then rise of communal politics, hate crimes, religious tolerance poses a challenge to the secular ethos. So, like we all know, the kind of hate speeches our political leaders gave. The religious intolerance that we are, having towards each other's religion. All these things are kind of increasing it is increasing the hatred towards each other's religion. Okay, so like for example in Punjab there are many such issues happening, in Kerala many such issues are happening, and then UP and all these areas. Okay, then next key feature of India's preamble is democratic. So India has a democratic status. That means we believe in the theory of democracy, and we just not believe in theory of democracy, that we also showcase this as that India is the mother of democracy. Like there was a saying that India is the world's largest democracy, and now Indian leaders also, amplify this, that India is not just, let's say, it is not just a largest democracy, but rather it is one of the oldest democracy in the world. Like America says that they got independence in some 1780s by signing Declaration of Independence. But the idea of democracy in India was enshrined even from the ancient times, the Buddhist times. Okay, so in the preamble, it is used to underscore political, economic, and social democracy. Like when I say that India is a democratic country, okay, we agree. But if I say that there is no other democracy that is deeper than us, will this be a right statement? Answer is no. Like for example, the country of Switzerland, let's say, consider the example of Switzerland. In Switzerland, guys, there is a concept of direct democracy. What do you mean by direct democracy? It is where the people will participate in the vote for making the laws. Any law will be made only after people's participation. But in India, do we have a form of a direct democracy? Answer is no. Do the people of India vote for the laws? Answer is no. We in India are a kind of a indirect democracy. We are an example of a indirect democracy. What do you mean by indirect democracy? That in India, we select our representatives and those representatives further elect the government. So this is what we can say, that India is a part of a indirect democracy. So India's democracy is going through a significant trials with issues such as, like, what all issues that we are facing in democracy: electoral reforms, money power in politics, then criminalization of politics, and then ensuring representation of the marginalized communities being the topic for hot discussion in India. Next, republic. So republic means head of the state, where head of the state, like, there is a question that has been asked from this topic already in 2016. So the question is that republic means the head of the state, and in India the head of the state is elected, not selected. Okay, so the head of state is elected but not selected. So, like, the current president of India is Draupadi Murmu. Her daughter or her son cannot become the next president. The next president will also be elected in our country. However, it will be indirect in nature. Then, your head of the state, we have two kinds of head: nominal head and the real head, de facto and de jure. So in India, the nominal head of the state is president, but the real head of the state is prime minister. Real head of the state is prime minister. So the prime minister of India is also elected by the people directly. Okay, the prime minister of India is elected directly by the people. So this is what the meaning of republic is. It basically highlights the political sovereignty vested in the people, contrasting with the monarchy where the head of the state inherits the position. India as a republic is grappling with maintaining its egalitarian promise in face of rising socio-economic inequalities. So the goal of achieving substantive equality remains a key issue with India. The next is justice. So in India, Indian constitution recognizes three kinds of justice. First, social justice. Social justice means ensuring equal status in society for all. This means, like, men and women should be treated equally. Different social groups like rich, poor, child, youth, old should be treated equally. And then the debate of social justice also extends to inclusion and acceptance of LGBTQ plus community. Okay, LGBTQ plus community, which is again indicated by Madras High Court's direction. So even their rights are also protected under Indian Constitution. Next is economic justice. What do you mean by economic justice? Ensuring equitable distribution of wealth. However, you will see that there is a rising inequality in our country. There is a rising inequality in our country. The rich is getting more richer and the poor is getting more poorer. So this, we can say that it is a kind of economic injustice. However, from the recent times, how we can say that are we able to get this, or we are ensuring this economic justice? Like some examples you can quote where yes, we are doing that. Like for example, Stand Up India scheme. Under this scheme, we are promoting entrepreneurship of women, ST communities. However, the other areas where we are not ensuring economic justice is the areas like the SDG ranking, Sustainable Development Goal ranking, where in India there are some challenges like ensuring food security, ensuring gender equality, and promoting inclusive industrialization. These are some contexts where we are lacking in economic justice. Next, political justice. What do you mean by political justice? Providing equal political rights to all citizens. But if we compare it with the recent sense, like right to access to justice is guaranteed under Article 21, so which include right to access to live court proceedings, which are emphasized during the pandemic. And even today, we are getting this right to access to justice, where all these court proceedings you are allowed to attend. One more, let's say, like, what are the counter arguments for the political injustice? The counter arguments will be criminalization of politics, then money power or the muscle power. All these things, it kind of prohibit the others to participate in the political process. Okay, so this is justice. The other areas of preamble are liberty. Liberty means liberty of freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. So, are we celebrating a pure liberty in India? Like, let's say there are interpretations of Article 21 that highlights the balance between personal liberty and social norms. Like, for example, if somebody wants to have a live-in relationship, so this is a kind of a liberty that he has, liberty of his thought, liberty of his expression. But do you think that live-in relationship is or should it is allowed from the societal perspective? From the societal perspective. So do we or are we following the complete liberal thoughts, or is complete liberty given in the country? Answer is no. One more area that you can link it here is, like, for example, if person wants to work in, let's suppose a person from North India wants to work in Karnataka. So now the issues like you should know Kannada language, you should know this, you should know that, these kind of political tussle, don't you think that this will again, it is against the liberal principle which is enshrined in our constitution? Next, equality. So when it comes to equality, equality means ensuring no discrimination and privileges against any sections of the society. So guys, there is a difference between equality and equity. you should understand these two important concepts. Equality and equity. So equality means that everyone should be treated equally, whereas equity means that everyone should get the proportionate equality that they deserve. So in recent context, the current SDG ranking of India has shown a poor performance in gender equality. The Oxfam report has shown rising inequality and then legal recognition to protection of LGBTQ community. Then tribal rights, they also fight to have that equality. Like for example, you can add the example of Manipur here. You can add the example of Manipur. So what Metis and Kukis are fighting for? They are also fighting for equality. Each one of the community has their own representation of equality or their own meaning of equality. And they believe that this will happen, so it will bring equality. However, the other exactly questions the approach. Next, fraternity. Fraternity means a sense of brotherhood. Which ensure dignity of the individual, unity and integrity of the nation. So a sense of brotherhood. Like if you remember in school assemblies, you used to, pray like this, that all Indians are my brothers and sisters with a cross in hand. Okay. So like we used to joke it this in this way as well. Like all Indians are my brother and his sister. Okay. So even on these lines, we used to joke. So in the pandemic, it has highlighted that there is a need for a sense of unity and fraternity as seen in debates around the vaccine distribution and discrimination against certain communities. So this is what fraternity is. The next thing is that what is and why is preamble so important? Preamble is important because it embodies the constitution's source, it embodies the philosophy and the fundamental values enshrined in the constitution. It gives the constitution the direction and the purpose, reflecting the values of freedom struggle, acting as a constant reminder to the lawmakers. Though not directly enforceable in the court, the preamble helps interpret ambiguous language in the constitution's article. So this is what is the significance of preamble. Next, amendment of preamble. So the question is whether the preamble can be amended. So in Berubari case 1960, Supreme Court stated that the preamble was not a part of the constitution and could not be amended. First judgment related to Berubari was that it is the part of the constitution and you cannot amend the constitution. However, in the Keshwanand Bharti case, the court stated that the preamble is the part of the constitution and can be amended by provided that the constitution's basic structure is not compromise. So the recent proposals are to include and to replace the word socialist with equitable, because the country like India, we are hardly following the socialist principle. However, the government of India is regulating the things, but it is very difficult to, apply this in a pure sense. Like if you are not complying to any idea completely, then why there is a need to add this word socialist in the constitution? Okay, so this is all about preamble. The next important area that we are touching as a part of a quick revision related with current affairs, the next topic is fundamental rights. Okay, so the next topic is fundamental rights, which is enshrined in part 3, article 12 to 35. So these are the questions that has been asked from this topic in the past. So fundamental rights are embodied in part 3 of the Constitution, which forms the cornerstone of individual liberty, democratic principle, social justice, which is shaping an equitable society while pertaining to the authoritarian rule. Classification of fundamental rights. So the Constitution of India provides 6 fundamental rights, which are right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. We'll understand each of the rights, we'll discuss them in detail. So before beginning with what are fundamental rights, first you need to understand that what is the relation between fundamental rights and democracy. So the essence of democracy is deeply intertwined with the human rights. When I say democracy, democracy means that you enjoy all the basic necessary rights which is given by the human, or which are enshrined in our constitution. So the extent of the enjoyment of these rights by the citizen forms a frame of a reference for democracy. So as these rights are executed by the government, which are elected by the people. So why fundamental rights are necessary? First, it helps us to promote democracy. It helps us to safeguard individual liberties against the state invasion, to foster all around development of individual and the country, and to prevent the authoritarian and dictatorial rule. Fundamental right plays an important role, and then it acts as a bulwark for the tyranny of the executive and the arbitrary laws of the legislature. The next is, what are the different features of the fundamental rights? First, it gives availability to all person with some rights exclusive to citizens. Like we will see, like Indian Constitution gives fundamental rights even to the foreigners. And then all the fundamental rights are given to the citizens with exceptions to the foreigners. Then existence of reasonable restriction. So there is a provision where the government can impose reasonable restriction on certain rights if the condition is beyond the control. Then protection against the authoritarian tendencies. It is a combination of negative and positive characteristics. Like there are some places where fundamental right act as a negative consonant on the state or a negative obligation on the state. Whereas there are some positive characteristics where the fundamental right gives certain privileges to somebody. Then it is justiciable and defended by the Supreme Court. What do you mean by justiciability? That the Constitution is given this idea of justiciability, that if fundamental rights are not, or in a case where fundamental rights are violated, a person can straight away approach the Supreme Court. That there is direct enforceability with certain exceptions. The fundamental rights are enforceable as per the law. However, there are certain exceptions to it. Like for example, freedom of speech and expression. Our Constitution gives you the right to speak in the way you want. But the same article gives this power to the state to impose reasonable restrictions. Then restrictions under certain circumstances, like in case of a martial law. Then susceptibility to curtail or repeal through a constitutional amendment bearing the basic structure. So even we can amend fundamental rights, we can repeal fundamental rights, keeping the basic structure of the Constitution in mind. And then yes, some limited operational scope of fundamental right, because there are certain exceptions that we have kept under Article 31A, 31B, 31C. So we'll elaborate all these articles one by one. So fundamental right deals from Article 12 to Article 35. So let us discuss all these articles one by one. First, Article 12. It is again a very important article because according to this article, you get the definition of state. What do you mean by state? So a state means the government of India, parliament, government of state, legislature of the state, all the local authorities or any other authorities, either statutory or non-statutory in nature. That means either they are formed by the law or they are formed by a executive resolution. All these things are included under the definition of state. Then what about judiciary? So the judiciary's position, that is judiciary, the courts, comes under the state. The definition of state under Article 12 is contingent upon its judicial and non-judicial functions. Like when the courts are acting in judicial capacity, it cannot be regarded as states. Like for example, if the courts, Supreme Courts are giving judgment on some constitutional matter, in that sense, they are not state. However, if they are working in the form of administrative action, they comes under the definition of the state. So United Nations does not qualify as the state under Article 12 because it is beyond the jurisdiction of Article 226. United Nations is not the part of Indian sovereignty, and that is why it is beyond the definition of the state. Moving ahead, Article 13. This article, we can say it is the backbone of the fundamental rights. So according to Article 13, all laws that are inconsistent with or they are in derogation with any fundamental right, that means it basically violates any kind of a fundamental right, any law is declared as void, or there is a scope of judicial review for such laws. And if judiciary declares these laws as null and void, their implication will stop then and there itself. So there is a power of judicial review that has been conferred by our constitution to the Supreme Court under Article 32 and to High Court under Article 226. They can declare a law unconstitutional or invalid on the ground of contravention of any of the fundamental right. If any law is taking even a part of a fundamental right, even in that case, a law can be declared as null and void. So what is the meaning of law here? So the law is defined with a wider meaning that any of the following can be challenged in the court as violating a fundamental right, and hence it can be declared as void. Then moving on to the next article, the permanent laws enacted by the parliament or the state legislature, will they come under the ambit of Article 13? So temporary laws such as ordinance issued by the president or the state governors are part of Article 13. Similarly, statutory instruments such as delegated legislation like bylaw, any kind of rule, regulation, notification, it also comes under the definition of law. Non-legislative sources such as custom, usage, having the force of law, it also comes under the law. A constitutional amendment is not a law, hence cannot be challenged. So you cannot challenge a constitutional amendment. Supreme Court held in Keshwanand Bharti case that the constitutional amendment can be challenged on the ground that it violates fundamental right in the form of the basic structure of the constitution. So that in Keshwanand Bharti case, even constitutional amendment can also be challenged if that constitutional amendment violates fundamental rights or it forms a part of a basic structure of the constitution. So this is what all will included under Article 13 explicitly. Then moving on to the next article, Article 14. Article 14 talks about equality before law. So Article 14 asserts that in the eyes of law, law will treat everyone equally. So there is equality before law, that is the English concept, and equal protection of law, that is the American concept. So according to equality before law, there is no special privilege given to any person in respect to any ordinary law, and affirms that no person is above law. This is what your equality before law is. So either you are a prime minister or a rickshaw vendor, the law will treat you equally. Then equal protection of laws. So this is an American concept where the law will treat everyone equally under ideal circumstances, and consistent application of the same laws to all the person in similar situation. However, there are certain exceptions to equality of law. First, the state can make special provisions for women, children, socially and economically backward classes such as SC, ST, public educational institutions as per the first constitutional amendment. So this is exception. Like under Article 15 and 16 that we will do, the state has this obligation to work for the socially and educationally deprived sections of the society, which include women, which include children, old age, SC, ST, etc. Then admission provisions. So state can provide special provisions for backward classes, SC, ST for the admission to the educational institutions. That can include private ones except minority education institutions like 93rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 2005. Then economically weaker sections. The state can make special provisions for EWS, including reservations in educational institutions, which is very recently added as per 103rd Constitutional Amendment 2019. Then under Article 361, there are some exceptions given to the president and gubernatorial immunities. What do you mean by this gubernatorial immunities? Basically, the immunities given to some specific post. Like for example, there can be no criminal case that can be started against president and governor when the person is in his the person is part of in his office. Same is with governor. No criminal proceedings can be initiated against the governor. What about the civil proceedings? When it comes to civil proceedings, the civil proceedings can be initiated against the president and the governor, but only after giving 2 months of notice to both of the constitutional posts. Then parliamentary privileges. So both MP and state assembly members enjoy special privileges and immunities under 105 and 194. 105 is for MP, 194 is for the members of legislative assembly. What are those special provisions? Like a MP can, whatever he speaks in the parliament cannot be challenged or cannot be, questioned in any court of law. He has that immunity. Then he also has immunity of against arrest and detention, like 40 days before and 40 days after the session. So he enjoys a parliamentary immunity. The next article is again a very important article, Article 15. You have seen a movie based on this article, which basically prohibits any kind of discrimination. So the state as well as private individual cannot discriminate on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, etc. That means a person cannot discriminate against them. The only exception to this is special provisions for women and children, SC and ST, which are socially and educationally, which belong to social and educational backward classes. For this, we have kept some reservations. Like for ST, we have 15%, 7.5% for ST, 27% for OBC, 3% for PWD, and 10% for EWS. This is the current reservation breakup of our country. Then in Supreme Court has given, or they have supported reservation in all these major landmark cases like Champakam Dorai Rajan case 1951, Indra Swani case of 1992, N. Nagaraj case of 2006, and Jarnail Singh case of 2018. So guys, we will end today's session here. I will come up with one more session next week. So if you are planning to take subscription for UPSC CSE exam, you can join Shriram IAS on Unacademy. You can use this code Shrirams, where you can avail a special discount for the complete comprehensive package for CSE 24. It will include prelims, mains, interview, your optional, essays. There will be special mentoring that will be given to you by Shriram IAS. So this complete holistic package comes at only 26,000. You can use this code Shrirams and get all these services. So what all optionals that you are getting at Shriram IAS? So you are getting sociology, public administration, PSIR, economics, history. Along with this, you will get geography, plus other than geography, you will get anthropology optionals are also available here. Geography and anthropology optionals are also available here. And one more thing, guys, this session in the month of August, I will continue with polity. So we will do some revision of polity along with some current affairs related to polity. So this is it for today's session, guys. See you in the next